want to hear what your comments were about that. And the second part that I have is I do with I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and so we chill out Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, or whatever in our church. And we go to Share House, which feeds people who are unhoused, the homeless folks. And so some of those people carry bad energy. And so I was just wondering, not that I've felt, because I don't feel that kind of stuff, but I'm just wondering what you would recommend to keep myself safe. And also, while there, I'm also sending out good thoughts to them. But I also wanted to know what thoughts you had about that.
Okay. Good questions. So first, that question about being protected and if we need to be concerned about any negative or harmful spirits, entities like that. Uh, well, there is one basic thing in Buddha Dharma which gives us protection, which is a refuge. Same like same function has in Christianity with baptism, like taking baptism and then doing certain basic prayers that they have in Christianity. It's the same purpose in that regard. Of course, there is more to refuge than just protection, but that's one of the functions of refuge, and one important meaning of the refuge jewels. You know, there is a genre of well, let's look at it this way. There are kind of two different takes on this, and there is a genre of folks who are constantly concerned and worried, and really worried whether they are protected or not about any possible external harmful influences. And there are all kinds of amulets and do you say medallion in English? Do you understand what I mean? Like it's kind of an amulet. Yeah, so wearing something like that or having some things at your house. Well, we have a house full of, the house itself is consecrated and we have a house full of blessed items, but not mainly because of this, not mainly because of being protected. So protection is just one angle into all of this. So if and when we are practitioners of Dharma and we take refuge in our daily practice, and of course at some point it becomes a question when we feel that we want to take refuge formally. It's a very important occasion on the path of practice, taking refuge and bodhisattva vows formally. Well, of course, those of us who have been baptized as Christians, as babies, we don't remember our own baptism, but it's a very important event in the life of a human being as baby, and taking refuge is very very similar. So it's kind of one of those, I guess I could say, watershed moments in the path of practice when we feel that okay, I want to follow this philosophy, this tradition, do these practices, and like spiritually, existentially follow this path of yoga. So it's a very important moment. But so whether we have taken refuge, could I say informally, like we haven't taken it formally from our teacher, there's still that protecting power is there and the blessings are there, and because of that we don't need to worry about such things. We don't need to worry about such things ever. Even if you went to a you mentioned homeless people who, many have addictions and substance problems. Even if you go in the middle of such people or to a dirty bar that is full of the bad kind of drunks, and the energy is accordingly, no need to worry about it. So even when we feel that energy, what is most important to pay attention to is our own reaction to it. And like a basic mechanism of such that situation is that if we get scared, if, well, I guess being scared, bothered, concerned would be the like a main emotional reaction to just such situations. This of course affects us, but it mainly affects our own. If we are scared of being affected, then we need to deal with the fear itself. So this is how it's always like, instead of starting some kind of starting to say prayers to purify the place, or stay away evil spirits, starting to fight, doing something like that, we focus on the inside. We focus on our own reactions and how we behave in that sense. Then your other question about was it like was the word universalist church, something like that, that you attend to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Universalist church.
Well, you were already. Oh, it's right. I mean, okay.
Yeah, I
It's
hear.
Unitarian Universalist.
Okay, okay. And then homeless people who come there, have unharmonious energy, some disturbances. Okay. So we can always pray on behalf of others. We can always ask for blessings from the gurus, from God, from any spiritual pure source that is close to us, and of course we can always pray for certain people, certain individuals, when we see that, okay, that person is really in a bad shape, in a really bad place, or if we know that somebody has illness, whether they are homeless or not. When somebody has illness, we can always pray. But then when we are done with those prayers, don't be bothered about having the world healed and carrying all the individuals that you see in bad shape yourself. Don't be worried about that. But little bit we can do always. And I think it's also natural to, when we get in touch and are in touch who we truly are, these pure beings of love, of sobriety, with fresh energy, clear minds, grounded, then it's natural to, natural to feel and be in tune with such things. But my previous point was that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the problems of the world, whatever they might be. And in that sense, just focus on our own reactions, our own impulses, and work through those. Dharma looks at helping of the world. Well, of course, there is, just like you said that, I believe you said that you offer meals at the church where you go to. So there are these classical dharmic ways of feeding the hungry, helping the poor, starting hospitals, schools, something like that. So these like a how do you say, projects of goodwill, that this is classical Dharma. So such projects. But then the main thing is working with ourselves. And of course, like with something that I mention on almost all retreats, is helping others, those who are ready, those who are seekers, offering the information of what we do as practitioners. This is, I feel, extremely important in the West, where kind of the, well, maybe I could say it's not perhaps exactly accurate, but you could say that the scene of meditation is kind of underground. Meditators are kind of underground. So there is no like a openly displayed culture of Dharma in the West. But I think this is kind of one of the first things that needs to be established for Dharma to survive in the West. Because it needs to become mainstream, just like it did in Asian countries since 2000 years ago. So it became a mainstream thing, with people not keeping their practice secret, but being openly practitioners, wearing external marks of practitioners, of course, building temples everywhere, and building stupas. So, but the first step with that is not to keep practice secret. And as you know, one of the simple ways how I kind of felt that this issue should be fixed is yogis on display, meditating where people can see you. Because for those who are seeking, it can be a kid who is 10 years old. It can be somebody who is 30-year-old. It can be somebody who is 60, 70 years old. So we can't really know who is seeking. Like we don't know what's going on in people's minds. But I always think of myself when I was a kid and a teenager, and I was very fortunate to start judo when I was 6, 7 years old, and especially back in the mid-80s in Finland, in eastern part of Finland, which is very close to the border of Russia. It's like a old mining town, and there is no Dharma there. Absolutely no. Not much in the whole country in the 70s and 80s. But I was very fortunate to have a judo teacher who had learned a little bit of meditation, a little bit of acupuncture and shiatsu, and he was a massage therapist professionally. So from very early on, I got little bits and pieces that I learned from him that we used to do in judo training sessions, and I was very good friends with his son. So I used to go to their house and he would teach me and show me little things every now and then. But nevertheless, from my personal story, that didn't really quench my thirst. So I had much deeper interest. Let's say that my pain was already when I was a young boy, my pain was more than what the little meditation sessions and all that offered. So by the time when I was a teenager, I was already desperate. And when Dharma wasn't available, I kind of didn't know of meditation as a culture. When I practiced with Mauri Sensei, we would just kind of quiet ourselves a little bit and sit for these sessions of few minutes. So it wasn't like he wasn't giving like a full picture or like a bigger context for it. But when I became a teenager, I was already desperate for it. And of course, because the pain kept growing, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years of age. And then I moved to the capital area when I was 16. So I moved to my own apartment back then. And when I got drunk the first time, that was it. You know, I became a heavy drinker immediately because that was a way to lessen the pain. And I did it for 7 years. I was a heavy drinker. I was barely at school. Somehow, miraculously, I was able to graduate high school, but I was never there. I was either, you know, I was a musician back in those days and training seriously in music. And I became pretty good at playing guitar. And I used to work as a music producer a bit later. But internally, I was in very bad shape. I was having panic attacks, immense social anxiety, bouts of depression, all of that undiagnosed. So these things weren't discussed in you know, at schools or elsewhere in those days, in the mid-90s, 30 years ago. But my point is that if I had seen people sitting at the park bench, people sitting perhaps at the shopping mall, at the bus stop, if the Western Dharma practitioners back then had openly displayed their practice, I could have gone, I would have been able to see, oh, what's going on with that person sitting on the park bench, because his energy is very different, like peace radiating. I could have gone and asked. That's the whole point of Yogis on Display. It is an actual act of compassion, actual way of, you know, the bodhisattva of compassion is Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, Avalokiteshvara, which literally means Ishvara, or a god or a lord who hears the cries that are coming from below, hears the cries from low realms, from the 6 realms. So when we do Yogis on Display, it is that listening to those cries and extending our hand to those who are in bad shape and in bad place. In Amrita Mandala, I've given Yogis on Display as an option to pay for retreat fees, and many do it, but it's not only like a way to pay for retreats. It's a practice in our Sangha. Yeah, and I think it's a very important one. The way how I came up with that idea was because back in Japan 20 years ago at the monastery, we used to go out from the monastery grounds and, you know, wear Buddhist robes and then walk around the villages and cities nearby. And then we would chant the syllable Ho, which means Dharma in Japanese, and people would come and donate money, usually, or sometimes food for us. So every 4 or 5 days we did this. And that's a way to, like a classical way, since Buddha Shakyamuni's times. He's the one who started that tradition. I'm not sure about that. I think that it's like an ancient practice in India, on Indian subcontinent. So anyhow, Buddha Shakyamuni continued at least that practice, thus creating a connection with the practitioners of Dharma, with the monasteries, temples, centers, with the community. Communicating that, we are in this together. We are in this together. And we are practicing for the liberation and benefit for all, not only for our benefit, but also everybody's benefit. So I really liked that back in Japan. And then I came back to Finland, to West. And 20 years ago, Zen Buddhism was still there was interest towards Zen Buddhism. It doesn't seem like that interest is there anymore. So at least from my perspective, it looks like a lot has changed during these 20 years in the West, in Europe and US, about that interest towards Zen Buddhism in particular and Dharma in general. Maybe it's just I don't know if it's wrong or right, but that's how it looks for me. But nevertheless, there are so many little Zen groups and Zen centers here and there in Europe and West. And then I started wondering, is anybody doing this practice of takuhatsu, creating that connection? And I couldn't believe when I found only one place in United States that did it. And that one place, I think, had only one monk. So it was like a one monk mission doing it. And there had been other, some Zen centers. I remember that back in the 70s, probably in Rochester Zen Center in, I don't know which state it is, but Philip Kaplow's center, they first started doing this takuhatsu in a traditional way, but then they stopped doing it because the community felt that they were strange and weird or something like that. And what they tried to replace it with was to have all the members of the Sangha go out on the streets of the city and pick up trash, kind of cleaning the streets instead. But then they stopped doing that also. And as far as I know, there's nobody doing that in the States. As far as I know, nobody doing that in Europe either. And this is just a simple example in the Zen Buddhist community. But how many times have you seen people meditate, practice yoga, chant mantras, do such things on the streets? The only ones doing it are Hare Krishnas in the West. And with all love and respect, I'm not sure if that's the best influence. Krishna being a lovely master, but I'm not sure if Hare Krishnas are really properly connecting to him. Anyway, I don't mean to sound cynical, but my point is that if we want Dharma to take root in the West, we need to be open about this. We, practitioners. It doesn't mean that we go, here's a pamphlet, take a pamphlet, give me your phone number, give me your address, start giving us money. Just do your practice every now and then where people or where animals can see you. Not sitting like beggars, not sitting like deluded idiots, but sitting like kings and queens of Dharma. We need to think ahead, not always think about I can't do this, I don't have the ability, capacity, I'm so screwed up, I'm so small and insignificant. if you are a bodhisattva, if you really contemplate and take the meaning of the bodhisattva vows into your heart, if you really listen to what Mahayana Buddhist scriptures say about compassion and love and transmigration through the 6 realms from one life to the next, there is no room for any of that self-centered horseshit, is there? You don't need to be brave. You don't have to have courage to sit in public. You just need to have a good heart, really caring heart for others. It all started with one man, Buddha Shakyamuni. One man. Another simple way how, if you're offering food for the homeless people, who many are addicts, bless their food and bless what they drink. Charge it with Shakti, with blessings. That will help also. Okay, any other questions? Feel free.